Support for this podcast comes from Frito-Lay and the 2023 Snack Bracket Championship. The Frito-Lay Snack Challenge is underway, and fans are voting on their favorite snacks to crown champion. We're talking about primetime matchups between the best 64 snacks in the land. Will Ruffles Ridges reign supreme? Can Doritos defend their dynasty? Or will Smart Food use their smarts for a surprise upset? Only you can decide. Get in on all the action for a chance to win up to $1,000 or a year's worth of snacks. Let your snacks be heard. Just go to fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com to vote and enter for a chance to win. No purchase necessary. Sweepstakes ends April 3rd, 2023. Void where prohibited. Year's worth of snacks awarded in the form of 52 coupons, each good for one bag of chips. See official rules at fritolaysnacket.sbnation.com.
Today's edition of the DBR Podcast is brought to you once again by those fine gentlemen and scholars of Bird Campbell, PA. Bird Campbell means business. Duke fans, hello, and welcome to episode number 135 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. We are coming to you on Thursday, November 15th. We are recording just a few days before Duke football heads down to Death Valley to take on Clemson, but also before our Duke basketball team heads off to Maui for the Maui Invitational. They've never lost in Maui, and we're going to see a ridiculous field. But before we get into all that, I am the captain of the ship this week. I am Donald Wine. I am here in Washington, D.C., my home. I only have one of our usual cohorts with me. Sam, who is down in Durham, is off being a student right now. So we're going to let him be a student. And I'm going to bring in the ATLian, Jason Evans. Jason, what's up, man?
Not a lot. You and I are going to have to carry the load this week, huh?
I think so. You know what? Like we've put Sam through a lot. I ran him through the ringer this weekend. It's almost Thanksgiving, and he actually has to learn a little bit, I think, while he's down in Fuqua, don't you think?
Oh, and I'm sure he's working on some papers. There's always stuff due right before Thanksgiving.
Always.
So I'm sure he's slammed. Probably group projects, because like if it was a paper, he could go, okay, I'll take time out and do the podcast and then do the paper. But if it's a group project, your group's like, we're all meeting at 9. You're like, oh no, I got to do a podcast. They'd be like, no, you don't. You got to be with the group.
To be fair, Section 5, I do know they're all fans of the podcast, so maybe they would make this exception. But you know what? We're going to let it slide this week. It's almost Thanksgiving. Let's give him a little time to get some of the stuff done that he needs so that he'll be back next week. But you know what? Why don't we just start with the basketball? How about that?
I think that's an excellent idea. The Dunk Show was in town.
Oh, yes. And I guess this was last night on Wednesday, Duke hosted my hometown, Eastern Michigan Eagles. And you know what? Eastern Michigan just did not have a chance from the jump. It was 84-66. Actually, wait, hang on.
84 to 46.
46.
Yeah. 66. They didn't dream of getting 66.
I dreamed that they made it closer than it actually was. So 84-46, the Eagles went down. And everyone last night finally, if they weren't already, finally bared witness to our Lord and Savior, Zion Williamson. But before I get into that, Jason, I have kind of a challenge for you. I want you to talk about one aspect of this game that does not include Zion Williamson. Go.
Oh, dude. Okay, I'll tell you what I'll talk about then. I'm going to talk about our defense, which I was very impressed with. It is worth noting that this Eastern Michigan team is not a bad team.
Mm-hmm.
They were ranked right around the top 100 in Ken Pomeroy's rankings coming into the game last night. Now, look, a top 100, a team that's they were just outside the top 100. A team like that, clearly they're not going to be able to beat this Duke team, but it's not like this is a team that had no chance at all. It's not like this is a team that, I don't know, if they were matched up with a lower tier ACC team, you'd go, oh, they have no chance. They have no shot. Eastern Michigan's fairly good. This is a team that has talked about making the NCAA tournament come March. They're part of a conference that thinks their conference should get multiple bids come March. And we utterly dismantled them. And to me, the place where we dismantled them was on defense. So they hit the opening basket. They went up 2-0. And then they made exactly one free throw over the next 7 minutes of action. They had 2 points in the first minute. They had a total of one more point over the next 7 minutes. And during that time, we outscored them 21-1. That's not good. During those 7 minutes, we harassed them into 7 turnovers. And they ended the first half with 14 turnovers. 14 turnovers in one half of basketball. Now, it's a bad day if you have 14 turnovers in a whole game. They had 14 turnovers in the half, and that is why this game was completely over at halftime. It was 48-13. Ball game, finished, done, end of story. The
Cameron Crazies gave a nice round of applause and started chanting double digits when Eastern Michigan finally made it. But I'm pretty sure it was like right around the under 4 timeout with left in the half before they made it to that point.
Yeah, it was. They were 17 minutes in single digits. And again, this is a fairly decent team that had no chance of scoring against us. And folks, that is so important because we know these guys can score.
Yeah. So you know what? You passed the challenge, and before we get into the Zion Williamson show, I'm going to do the same and talk about a non-Zion aspect. I'm going to talk about Tre Jones. Tre Jones, I thought, it's funny when you're talking about Tre Jones when he was coming in. No one was talking about, people were saying he's going to be able to distribute, he's going to score. He hasn't scored that much this year, and I don't think that's a concern. I think what it is he's been really, really good at helping out with the just distributing the ball. He had 8 assists last night and only 1 turnover. I want to say he's only had a couple of turnovers on the season, and that has really been what's engineering this. A lot of times he's been helping out with steals, he's been helping out defense. What's that?
3. He's had 3 turnovers on the season. 3 games, 3 turnovers from your point guard. And by the way, 22 assists. 22-3.
That's a pretty good ratio.
That's amazing. That is truly impressive. I mean, the dude is averaging more than 7 assists a game and 1 turnover. A 7-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. That's legendary.
Yes, absolutely. And you know what? Like I really like that. Even though he's, sometimes when you have a point guard that doesn't score, people consider that a liability. They hone in on him and make him try to shoot the ball. The thing is, he can shoot the ball. We've seen him so far during the year have some pretty good shots. Have looks at the basket, dribbles, drives to the basket, and I think what he has done is he, in a way, has made himself not have to score, but at the same time, he can still be a major impact on the offense and make it so that guys aren't check double teaming off of him. And leaving him open and trying, like last year, there was a lot of times where Trayvon Duval was forced to shoot the ball because he was the only one open. They were double teaming everybody else. They're not doing that so far this year because they know that Tre Jones can't hurt them. And I think that is a really big asset. And I think it's kind of one of the things where in the limelight that, the other guys are under, he's kind of outside of that spotlight so far this year. And I think it's really encouraging that he's playing as well as he is because that is allowing everybody else to have that limelight.
Well, and it's worth noting about him, he has played the second most minutes of anybody on the team. RJ Barrett's at 90 minutes. Tre Jones is at 84 minutes. I think we're going to continue to see that as the season moves along, as we start to play, more and more quality opponents. Tre Jones has to be in the game virtually the whole time. He's the beginning of our defense and the beginning of our offense.
I mean, you did see Jordan Goldmeyer quite a bit last night. He had 19 minutes. He was, and here's the thing, I thought he was pretty capable. It wasn't like he was lighting the world on fire, but he was a capable distributor on offense while Tre Jones got a little bit of rest. But yeah, you're right. During these big games, you're going to see Tre Jones play 35, 36, 37 minutes.
Hey, are we allowed to get to the Zion show?
Go ahead. Go ahead.
So this morning on ESPN, Mike Greenberg, this isn't an exact quote. Someone told me this, and I saw it myself as well. Mike Greenberg pointed out, he said, you know what? Last night, on the night that LeBron James passed Wilt Chamberlain for 5th on the NBA's all-time scoring list, LeBron passed Wilt for 5th on the NBA's all-time scoring list.
With a 44-point night.
Yeah, on the night that happened, everyone was watching a guy playing his 3rd college game, and he is talking about Zion Williamson. The ridiculous, absurd, mind-blowing Zion Williamson. And I'm going to say this stat before you do, and I apologize. I know you're going to hate me for it. Donald pointed it out, but I have to say it anyway because it's such an incredible, unbelievable stat. Zion Williamson now has more blocked shots on the season than missed shots. He has missed a total of 7 field goals all season, and he has 9 blocked shots. That's like unfathomable. It is.
This is NBA Jam numbers.
Yeah, exactly. This is video game. It's like he's playing a video game, and he's got a cheat code, by the way. He's hitting 82% of his field goals. He's hitting 82%. That's like, I can't even put into words what a crazy number that is.
For all of you out there, after the game last night, we were in our usual group meet chatting about the game and just talking about it. And I believe it was Sam that said that he had just died watching Zion play basketball, especially the dunk, which we'll talk about in a second. And we talked about the fact that basically this year we all have to be cats. And every time Zion kills us with a dunk, just ends our life with its beauty. That's a life. And we have 9 of them. So far, I'm pretty sure we each have used 3. I think I might have used 6. So we're going to have to use these things sparingly when we talk about some of these dunks moving forward. But holy hell, that alley-oop. Look, do you want to talk about the alley-oop? Do you want to talk about the LeBron tomahawk with the right hand? Do you want to talk about the other tomahawk with the left hand? Which one do you want to start with?
The one where he's looking down at the basket. The one where he's looking.
Wait, you're going to have to narrow it down.
No, the one where he's two-handed coming from the side, and he is legitimately, his head is legitimately 4 to 6 inches above the rim. That's just crazy stuff. Again, I saw on ESPN, they said, if you look at where his arms are and the such like that, he could have dunked if the basket was 3 feet higher. They elevated it 3 more feet, and they said he was up high enough, he was at an angle and everything. If the basket was 3 feet higher, if it was a 13-foot basket, he still would have slam dunked on it. That's just silly. That's just crazy.
And shout out to number 10 on Eastern Michigan, who knew immediately that they had done something completely terribly wrong in letting that happen.
He went surrender cobra.
He went full surrender cobra. It was hilarious.
Yeah, it's great.
But also, here's the thing: if you're looking at you have to look at all the angles of this, right? And so when I'm looking at a dunk like that, it's so vicious, and it's coming, and you see it, I want to see who's like the first to react to it. And shout out, there was 2 guys in the Duke band that were right behind the play, and you could see one guy, and I swear to you, you think that he was jumping with Zion, because as soon as Zion caught the ball, this kid is like all the way above his peers. And I'm like, yo, who is this kid that's reacting? Suit him up, because at least, he might be able to grab a couple boards, not on Zion, but on basically everybody else. But yeah, just the fact that you could see all these different reactions. If you go back through the play and look through all the reactions, all of them, from the surrender cobra to the dude reacting before everybody else to the kid just like standing there with his mouth open. I'm pretty sure Alex O'Connell was just sitting there even he was amazed at what he had just saw. Like it was completely like you said, LeBron made history last night and in the NBA, and the first, second, and third thing people were talking about was number 1 in the program at Duke University.
By the way, there's another play in the second half that has not gotten nearly enough attention. The play where there's a loose ball, Jack White picks it up and throws it up court to Trey Jones. And Trey is outside the 3-point line. And because he has to catch the pass from Jack, he's almost facing the crowd. He's certainly not. He's moving in the direction of their basket, but he's not facing their basket. And all in one motion, Trey turns and throws the ball. He almost throws it blindly one-handed, just in the vague general vicinity of the basket. And Zion goes up and gets it and slams it. And, I don't know why it hasn't gotten more attention. I think that it's because it just didn't lend itself to Zion elevating in quite the same kind of way and looking quite as spectacular. But the play that Trey Jones makes there, because I'm serious. He catches it, his back is to the basket. He sort of glances over his shoulder to make sure that Zion is where he thinks he is, and then Trey, all in one motion, tosses it up. And actually, someone pointed out he doesn't have to be that accurate with it because really Zion.
All you gotta do is get it there. Yeah.
Zion's got it. There's a good 10 feet or so that Zion can go out and grab it and still slam it because he's up there so high for so long.
So the reason why I didn't get a lot of cred and a lot of looks is because I thought it was the play of the game. The play of the game was from Trey Jones. I double checked. It was definitely a no look. He wasn't looking at the basket. He was turning but after he released the ball, his head is facing the basket, but the ball's already gone. The problem with the play is that it's easily the third best dunk at best that Zion had last night, because you had the one in the first half, the alley-oop, and then you had the LeBron tomahawk where he did everything just like LeBron, but he did it with his right hand, and we all know he's a lefty.
No, I think you're right that like I said, the finish wasn't quite as spectacular, but it was still a pretty amazing play.
Incredible play. Just think about what he had to do with his body. He had to contort his body to, turn to his right, catch the ball, and then one fluid motion before he landed, turn and throw it to his left, and know that. I mean, that's what. Hey, maybe this is what this team is all about, right? Do you think, honestly, do you think that play happens last year? Because I don't.
I mean, maybe. I mean, Trevon Duval was a guy who attempted some pretty daring kind of plays at times. Mm-hmm. And certainly Wendell Carter and Marvin Bagley were guys who were going up and getting the ball and slamming it down. So I could have maybe seen that happen last year.
The reason why I say it wouldn't have happened last year, and this is no slight to last year's team, I feel like this year's team, these guys have such a rapport that they know exactly where everyone is going to be on the court at all times. It's not like last year, Duval, the guys on the court, Duval, Allen, can anticipate when Carter was by the net or when Bagley was by the net. Anticipation is different than knowing. And this year's team, so far this year, you can tell that they all know where each other is on the court at all times. And if you look at that play, if you go back and look at that play, Trey Jones does not look at Zion the entire play, but he knew that he was going to be there and just threw the ball to the net saying, hey, as long as I get it to the net, I know Zion is there ready to catch it. That is incredible to me. And it's incredible that freshmen already have that kind of rapport to the point, and really the rest of the team as well, because it's not, the play that started, like you said, was Jack White. The fact that they know where everyone is on the court and how to feed the ball to each other and know that all they have to do is get it to a certain spot and they know someone's going to be there. That is something that great basketball teams have. And I'm liking that I'm seeing that 3 games into the season. Now, next up for the Duke Blue Devils is a trip to the 50th state, the state of Hawaii, and the Maui Invitational. As mentioned, it is an invitational that Duke has never lost in, and it is usually one of the premier preseason or early season tournaments that there is in college basketball. This year, no exception. In addition to Duke, here is the field, and I'm just going to read you the field. San Diego State, Auburn, Xavier, Arizona, Iowa State, Gonzaga, and Illinois. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, 3 of those teams are in the top 10, 2 in the top 5. It is going to be an absolute monster of a field. But we start off with San Diego State on Monday. We would play in a bracket with Auburn and Xavier, and it seems like the setup would be if we made it to the final on Wednesday, Gonzaga possibly could be waiting for us at number 4 in the country. So, Jason, what do you take? I know you've done some research on some of the teams, so give me your sense of what we can expect in Maui.
Well, so first of all, you pointed out how strong this field is. This is absolutely like making a Final Four, maybe even making a national championship game. And allow me to explain. San Diego State is Ken Pomeroy's like right around number 50 or so, about the 50th best team in the country. But, one of the better mid-majors, a really good mid-major team. You would not be at all surprised to see San Diego State in the round of 32 of the NCAA tournament. Wouldn't be a stretch by any, not a stretch at all. So San Diego State's like playing, your round of 32 game. Auburn, well, they're Ken Pomeroy's number 9 team. They're ranked number 9 in the AP poll as well. I mean, this Auburn team is clearly a Sweet 16 or maybe even a Final 8 kind of team. Gonzaga? Well, Gonzaga is a Final 4 team. Gonzaga is, probably based on their schedule, Gonzaga is probably going to be a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They'll be a number 2 at the lowest. So winning this tournament, that's like playing, around a 32 kind of team, a Final 8 kind of team, and a Final 4 kind of team. This is a tough tournament. And I'll tell you the other thing about it that's going to be really tough for Duke. This is not like playing Kentucky, a team that is largely made up of a lot of young guys. We're going to be playing a ton of experienced players. This is going to be men versus boys, and unfortunately, we are the boys. Let me start with San Diego State. They're probably the youngest of the teams that I expect us to play. They have a bunch of really good sophomores, but they also have a bunch of really good seniors. They shoot a lot from 3, and they hit their threes pretty darn well. They're hitting 44% of their three-pointers in the season. They got they play a lot of different guys. They've got a bunch of guys who average in double figures. It's hard to say, hey, stop this one guy, and that's the key to beating them. That's not the key to beating San Diego State. If we get past San Diego State, and I think we will, probably going to face Auburn. Xavier's not bad, but I want to talk about Auburn. Like I said, number 9 team in the land. They've already beaten a very good Washington team, a Washington team that was ranked. They beat them by more than 20 points. You could make a pretty good argument that like Duke beating Kentucky and then Michigan beating Villanova last night, and then Auburn's victory over Washington. Auburn's victory over Washington might be like the 3rd most impressive victory we've seen so far this season, the way they dismantled Washington. Really impressive. This Auburn team is excellent. They have 6 different guys who average in double figures, and they are all juniors and seniors. This Auburn team is full of experienced players. They're going to be a very, very tough game. You think of Auburn, you think football. I got news for you. Auburn's basketball team is better than their football team this year. And then if we reach the finals, I'm almost certain we'll play Gonzaga. Gonzaga, Arizona or Iowa State is who they'd play in the semifinals. Frankly, Arizona's not that good this year. Iowa State's probably, fringe top 25 kind of team. They could knock off Gonzaga, but I think Gonzaga probably wins their game. So far, Gonzaga's played 2 games, Texas Southern and Idaho State, not good teams, but Gonzaga won each of those games by more than 35 points. I mean, they've put up some big numbers. They've topped 100 in both of their games so far this year. They play at a fast tempo. They get up and down the floor, and this Gonzaga team is deep. They are really deep. They have no problem playing 10 different guys, and they are really led. Arguably, the only player in this tournament who's as good as Zion and RJ is Gonzaga's forward Rui Hachimura. Rui Hachimura is a preseason All-American, and he's averaging 25 points per game this year. This dude is a scoring machine in the lane. And I am so eager. I'm almost certain he will be matched up with Zion Williamson. I think it's going to be so fun and exciting to see this because Rui Hachimura is a heck of a player. And I want to see what Zion can do against him should, Duke get there and Gonzaga get there, which I think they both will. But, got to get past Auburn first. They got to get past probably Iowa State. But I really worry that Rui Hachimura is the kind of guy who may get Zion Williamson in some foul trouble. and that could be a major issue for Duke if we play Gonzaga in the championship. One last thing I want to point out really quick that I think is an interesting sort of thing to note. We're on the better side of the draw. Even though we have Auburn, who's the better semifinal team, we're on the better side of the draw because we play the first semifinal. The semifinals are going to be at 8 p.m. and like 10:30 p.m. or so on Tuesday. The championship game is at 5 p.m. on Wednesday. Now, do a little bit of math there. If you play in that second semifinal, you probably won't be done till almost 1 a.m. on, not Tuesday night, on Wednesday morning at that point. And you have to turn around and play at 5 p.m. that day. You could have like a 16-hour turnaround, 3 games in 3 days, the last of which you could have, like a 15 or 16-hour turnaround. I mean, there's barely time to get back to your hotel, calm down, sleep, and then wake up the next morning, have breakfast, and then go play your game. I mean, that's almost what it's going to be like. So I'm glad we're in the side of the draw that has the earlier game. Probably gives us an extra, 2.5, maybe 3 hours of time. And I think that could be useful. 3 games in 3 days for a Duke team that isn't super deep. We're kind of deep, but, we're not someone, we're not, I think our good players, RJ and Zion and Trey and Cam, they're all going to be playing 30-plus minutes a game. And, it's their first time trying to do that 3 games in 3 days. That worries me a lot for that Gonzaga game. And so that's what I got for a preview for the tournament.
Well, I mean, to be fair on your last point about the time, I mean, it is 5 hours difference. So 5 p.m. here is noon there. But I think the point is well taken in the sense that it will be a quick turnaround. That the games are going to be, the championship, I believe, is at, you said 5 p.m. Eastern time. That's noon in Maui. So that is, in any case, that is an early start. That's going to be one of the first times that those guys will have to experience the, getting up probably at 6 a.m. to get ready, have a good meal and really start preparations for a game, which, for some, programs takes 5 to 6 hours to do. So that is a test for our team. But, another test in that sense is that gym is cramped. That gym is not a basketball arena. It is your high school gym is bigger than Chaminade's gym. Like it's that, it's that sort of place where things get, it gets hot, it gets humid, cramps come up a lot. And like you said, our depth is going to be a major factor in how we perform in Maui because they're going to need, all, 10, 11 guys to offer some productive minutes because in that heat, in that gym, everyone's going to be tired. And those legs are going to be rubbery. And it's one of those things where 3 games in 3 days in like the ACC tournament is one thing. This is 3 games in 3 days where you will feel like you're running twice as much because of the humid air. So I think that's a major test. But I like what you said about how we start off. I like, Auburn, like you said, I thought their game against Washington was an impressive game. And it's one of those things where you're saying at the beginning of the season, why is Auburn in the top 10? That game showed you why. So I think it's going to be a great draw for us because I'm really curious to see how we play against, a couple more big time opponents. Yeah, sure. A lot of times you can say that, beating Kentucky the way we did was kind of lightning in a bottle, but can it strike twice? And I think this is a major test where you say, hey, when you play this team and you win, there's no let up. There's no let up. You're playing another good team in less than 24 hours. So I'm really curious to see how this team will respond. I think Coach will have them ready the long trip. I like that we have kind of an extra couple days to get out to Maui and get acclimated and kind of get situated before the games happen. But make no mistake, this is going to be a really fun week of basketball. And I think that our guys are up for the challenge.
Duke is currently number 1 in the land on the strength of that victory over Kentucky. And there are people who are, not completely sold yet. It's not like Kentucky looked like world beaters after we beat them. Since they played us, they haven't looked great in their games since then. If Duke is still number 1 a week from now, it will be because we have won this tournament. It'll be because we beat San Diego State, probably Auburn, and probably Gonzaga. If we do that, those 3 games in 3 days, we 100% deserve to be number one. This is the toughest field of any tournament out there this season. And isn't it always that way for us? Last year in that PK80, we were in the toughest field, and here we are again.
And the great thing, and we say this every season when we have this little early season tournament, it's a terrific field and it's a terrible field at the same time. But there's one great reason. It's because we're in it. All right, guys, before we get to the football, we have a nice little treat for you. The last couple of weeks, this actually took place a couple weeks ago, but we have had a couple of heavy action-packed episodes, so we wanted to make sure that we got this in at a pretty good time. But I'm going to turn it over to Jason because, Jason, you got to go to a Hawks game a couple weeks ago that featured a couple of our Blue Devils. So why don't you take it away?
Yeah, so I was very lucky. I reached out to the Hawks and I reached out to the Sacramento Kings, and I said, "Hey, I'm the host of the Duke Basketball Report podcast." To which they said, "The what?"
If they don't know who we are, that's their fault. It's not ours.
Yeah, I convinced them that we are a legitimate news organization, that they should pay attention to us, and they gave me a press pass that allowed me to go back into the locker rooms after the game was over, and I had a chance to chat with former Dukies, two guys who were both number one ranked recruits in their class, Harry Giles and Marvin Bagley. It was a lot of fun. Both guys were very revealing. It's not a long conversation. Usually when we do these things, we have 15, 20 minutes or so to talk to these players. I will be honest, they were like literally wearing towels around their waists, and their hair was wet from being in the shower. There were naked bodies around. It's not a time for me to spend a half hour chatting with these guys. They had buses to catch and clothes to put on and stuff like that. So I only got about 5-7 minutes with each one of them, but they were both very nice and very gracious. And by the way, the whole time I was doing the interview, I guess the guys in the locker room, they're used to sort of regular reporters. They're not used to podcasters like me. Like literally there was this little crowd of Kings who were listening in on the whole thing, who were like making little side comments and stuff. I'll let you listen to the interview, and then I'll tell you a little bit more about the side comments that were going on. And there's a bonus interview in between the interview with Harry and the interview with Marvin. There's a bonus interview, and I'll folks, enjoy it. Here you go. Okay, so I'm here with Harry Giles. Hey, Harry, so I want to ask you, has it been frustrating? You had to sit out all of last year, and now you're playing some this year, but not as much as you'd like. What's the transition been like?
It's been good. It's been slow, just trying to figure it out there, and just trying to play my role the right way. So just taking my process and steps the right way, and being a good teammate, and just staying ready.
So what's been the most difficult thing about the transition from college to pro ball?
Probably just the pace. But it's not. It's actually it's weird how it is. It's like not faster, but the NBA has its own pace. Can't really explain it, but it's just different. And then just the strength. And then for me as a rookie, I had to learn how to play. Without getting certain calls. The rookie, they're going to be on you tough. It's just what it is. So I'm trying to figure out how to, play that line between playing aggressive and playing smart at the same time, and figuring out what I can do out there.
Do you feel like you're finally fully healthy? I mean, such terrible knee injuries, and then you had all of last year.
Yeah, definitely. I feel fine. I feel great. I'm just ready to go out there and just show it.
Do you stay connected to Duke very much? You talk to any of your former teammates?
Definitely. The ones I'm always with, Jason, Marquise. With Marquise still being there, and then my guys that's in the NBA too. Even the ones that I didn't play with. I see them. We always show love and just connect. And I try to keep in touch with the guys there as much as I can, just trying to give them support and let them know that they're going to have a great season.
Do you still feel connected to Duke? I mean, one and done. You're only there for a short time.
Right. I mean, I went there, so always. And there's plenty of one and done, so always got to feel that connection.
So I've interviewed lots of former Duke players, like dozens of them, for the podcast, and I ask every one of them, give me a good Coach K story. Do you have a good Coach K story you can give me?
What'd they say?
Well, so Shane Battier told me a story about him bringing a sword in the locker room, and I've gotten some great stories about how he motivates you guys. Anything like that?
Before the game, we always listen to music, and it's crazy seeing them bump around and walk around to the songs that we listen to and kind of get excited with us. And, one time I remember the song called him, and got him really excited, like, come on, let's go. So it was just cool to see him catch a wave.
That's awesome. Thanks, man. We really appreciate it. Good luck to you. All the Duke fans are rooting for you.
Thank you so much. Go Duke.
All right, so I'm about to talk to Marvin Bagley, but first I'm going to talk to Justin Jackson. I got to know, man, UNC, Duke, you got a couple Duke teammates on your team. I mean, is this difficult? Is this hard?
No. I think once the games come around, then it might be a little different. But I think we're on the same team, man. We're teammates now. It just kind of goes out the window, but it's definitely fun whenever that college season starts back up, and we've got things going on with the games and stuff like that. So
y'all gonna make any wagers come February?
There it is. You trying to get me in trouble? There's no betting, no tipping, no gambling.
Oh, sorry, NBA rules.
So no, we're not gonna make any type of bets. Yeah, I like that. I caught you though. But we'll you know what? It'll be definitely fun whenever the season starts. Obviously, they got a really good team. We got a good one, so we're not worried about Kansas. But Duke, I think it should be good games. Should be good games.
Thanks a lot, man. Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm here with Marvin Bagley, Duke Basketball Report, interviewing you, man. I want to know, you were always the best player on every floor that you stepped on throughout your entire life. And now you're in the NBA, and it's maybe not quite as easy. What's the transition been like?
Well, it's been good, man. I'm just having fun, enjoying my teammates and just getting these wins, man. That's all I can do.
Yeah, you guys are 6-3 and surprising. What's been the easiest part of the transition, and what's been the most difficult thing?
It's different, definitely, the traveling and stuff like that and doing all of that, the different traveling. But, we're just having fun. Like I said, it's good to be around these guys, and we just got to keep this win streak going.
What do you miss the most about college? What do you miss the most about Duke?
Just the college atmosphere, the coaches, just my teammates. We had a lot of great games together. We fought a lot of games out. We got some good wins, and I love those guys to this day. So it's something that you can't erase. Sorry.
So I ask every former Duke player. I've interviewed dozens of them, and they always give me a good Coach K story, like how he motivates you guys, things like that. Rack your brain. Give me your best Coach K story.
There's too many of them. Coach was I would sometimes just sit back and just watch Coach, just to observe and to see how he approaches the game and how he takes the game serious. And Coach never took a game off. That's something that stood out to me, is even with all the success that he's had in the past and with the U.S. team, he still wanted to win and still had that passion to win and wanted to get better. And I think that's what I picked up from him is, no matter where you're at, there's always room for improvement. You can always learn from anything and anybody, and that's why I admire Coach so much.
Okay, so last question. Last year you had one of the great seasons all time for a freshman, for anyone, but especially for a freshman at Duke. Have you seen Zion Williamson, R.J. Barrett? You think are those guys going to approach what you did?
Yeah, man, they have a great team right now. They're gonna do some big things. I'm definitely excited to watch them. I got a chance to go back in the summer and play open gym with those guys, and I'm definitely excited to see what they have in store for the fans and for Cameron and just for college basketball. So I'm definitely looking forward to that.
So who you played with them a little bit? Who's the best freshman?
They're all good. That's can't pick one. It's a lot of those guys coming in. They're gelling together. You got RJ who can do different things. Zion can do different things, jumps out the gym. You got a lot of guys on that team that can do different things to bring the team together and win games. So it's going to be exciting to watch those guys.
All right, sorry. So I completely forgot about this, but I have to ask: have you talked to? You got a bunch of Kentucky guys in this team with you and Harry. Are you guys all going to get together to watch the game next week?
We haven't talked about it. I probably will. It's gonna be a good game, and I'm like I said, I'm excited to see what they're gonna bring to college basketball. So it should be fun.
Thanks a lot, man.
Yeah, thank you.
So, by the way, I love that Justin Jackson of UNC, former, Duke rival Justin Jackson, was right there, ready and eager to talk to me. Like I said, a lot of the players standing around were listening in on this. There are a couple guys on the Kings roster who went to Kansas. I think if you listen carefully in the background, you could hear someone going, "Yo, talk to me. And at one point, when I was talking to Justin Jackson, there was a guy who was like, "What about Kansas?" That was Ben McLemore.
Like, basically, if you're in the Kings locker room, as far as the Blue Bloods are concerned, you could probably interview most of the Champions Classic.
Oh yeah. Oh, they got guys from all over the place. So they were having a lot of fun, and it was really fun. The guys were enjoying it. I thought Marvin, to me, had probably the most telling comment when he talked about the speed of the NBA game. And I think, there's been all this talk about, oh, hey, could this Duke team play in the NBA and that other kind of stuff? I mean, remember how great Marvin Bagley was. Duke played at a fast pace last year. Marvin Bagley was a guy who was known for getting up and down the floor really fast. And when I asked him what the biggest transition to the NBA was, there was no hesitation. He said the speed of the game. And I think that's really telling and a really interesting comment, about what the adjustment is like for these guys coming from the college game to the pro game. That 24-second shot clock and just the pace that they play at in the NBA is a real transition.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty telling too. We've talked a lot about Zion Williamson's motor and how he's just on the go all the time. Very few guys that we've seen in college basketball, at least since I've started watching, have had a motor that Zion Williamson has. And if you think about it, even he's going to have to ratchet it up a notch in the NBA, because everyone in the NBA has a motor that is go, go, go. But I thought that was really telling. But I've watched the Kings play a few games so far this year. And what strikes me about them is that a lot of them are, they're having some learning pains, but at the same time, they all have confidence. And I think no one better exhibits that confidence than Harry Giles, because, what he's had to go through with his various knee injuries and just, coming back from that to, basically try and, etch out a role on an NBA team, that takes a lot of confidence. And you could tell in his voice that he wants to be out there. He wants to play. He's working hard. And even though it may be coming a little bit slower than he thought, I think that sort of confidence is what's going to keep him in the NBA. He may never be a star. He may be a star. You never know. But I like the fact that he has the confidence that he's talking like a guy who's going to be playing when he's 35 years old and he's only 20. So I really enjoy that. But Jason, I have to talk to you about your petty. Look, man, I thought it was hilarious that you tried to set up Justin Jackson with the betting question. And he was immediately like, nope, we cannot do that. And we do not allow that in the NBA, in the National Basketball Association, which is exactly what people say when they are doing exactly what they're telling you that they are not doing.
I know. It was funny because when I said it to him, and by the way, full disclosure, Sam was the one. I'm pretty sure I told you guys I was doing this interview with the two guys, and I think it was Sam who said that I needed to ask Harry and Marvin specifically about some of the other guys in the Kings, like Willie Cauley-Stein, who went to Kentucky. Like I did this interview before the Duke Kentucky game, and so I was supposed to ask them, hey, do you got any side bets with Willie Cauley-Stein or the other guys who played at Kentucky who are on the roster? And I went, oh, you know what? Before I even ask that, I'll go ahead and I'll ask it of Justin Jackson. And Justin shut me down so quickly. He was just like, nope, we're not. There's no gambling. That's not allowed. You try to set me up and get me in trouble. It was very funny. Yeah. But I think there was some wink, nudge going on. I'm sure those guys, they're making, they're if nothing else, they're making wagers on stuff like, you got to carry my bags.
Yeah, I mean, look, one of the more recent ones that was pretty funny was a couple years ago when it was the Cleveland Indians and the Chicago Cubs in the World Series, and LeBron and Dwayne Wade made a bet, and the loser had to wear the jersey of the other of the winning.
I remember
team.
that.
So Dwayne Wade LeBron had to wear a Chicago Cubs jersey when they played when the Cleveland Cavaliers played at Chicago. So I mean, look, when I was thinking about side bets, I wasn't necessarily thinking about money because, you know, in the grand scheme of things, when you're talking about the NBA, like a $500 bet, I mean, is very little when you're talking about guys who make millions of dollars. But you know, it's more about the public humiliation that they have to endure by wearing like the jersey of another team, or they paint their locker like, you know, Duke blue or whatever, Kentucky checkerboard, whatever it is. But those sort of things are always kind of funny because this always comes without warning, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, why are you what's the explanation for this jersey that you're wearing? And then they're like, well, you know, LeBron won, so I had to do this. I think that's sort of the thing that we may see towards the end of ACC season.
I can't wait. I can't wait because I think the Duke guys will do well when it comes to making wagers with Carolina guys and other players this year.
I hope so. And also one final point, I think the cool thing is that you can tell that as busy as they are, they're still keeping track of the guys on the team. They may not be speaking with them directly because there's a lot of rules associated with that, and they don't want to be viewed as tampering or anything like that. But I think just, you know, following the team is something that when they talked about this rebranding of the brotherhood, that's really what they mean, is that these guys I feel like these guys are locked in, not just with what they're doing on the professional level, but they're still locked in with their university. And when we talk about a lot of these one and dones, and a lot of people being, you know, saying that they don't really, you know, fit in, they don't really, you know, become one with the university. The interviews that you had just show me that that's completely false, that these guys are locked in, that they're tuned in with what Duke is doing, and they feel a part of the success of future programs. So I think that is always telling when they talk about some of the guys on the team and how they, you know, watch them on the road and stuff. And I think it's still one of those things that's really cool when you hear a professional say, I'm still following my university play basketball.
The brotherhood is real, and it lasts after you leave the Duke campus.
Today's podcast, as always, is sponsored by two Duke alums and former class of 1978 roommates, Jamie Campbell and Tucker Bird, both diehard Duke followers and the founders of Bird Campbell PA, your Duke-centric business law firm. They have offices in Dallas, Orlando, and the Gulf Coast. And if you have watched or cheered Duke football or basketball, you know what it means to be a Blue Devil. These guys got it. They watched close to 3,000 games. They have been a longtime sponsor of this podcast, and we sincerely thank them for their support throughout the years. Reach out to them at birdcampbell.com if you are in need of legal advice and you live in Texas or Florida, or if for nothing else, just to talk basketball with them and then say, go to hell, Carolina. Okay, I think we're done with basketball for right now. And you know what? On the football side, there are still 2 more games left. For those of you out there, we're going to be on a break for Thanksgiving. So while we are gone, Duke will finish out the regular season. First off, they will take on, well, let's just say they're going to Death Valley, and they're going to play the number 2 Clemson Tigers at Death Valley under the lights on Saturday night, 7 p.m. kickoff time. That game is going to be interesting, to say the least. But they will come back next weekend as well and play Wake Forest at home. It's the final game of the year of the regular season, senior day at 12:30 p.m. kickoff. And right now, here's the thing. We're sitting at 7-3. So we have a chance to really move up. And now we're talking bowl tier selections and a lot of different things when it comes to these 2 games. So, Jason, what are you expecting to see this weekend? What are you expecting to see next weekend? And in general, what do you think what are you looking for Duke football to improve on?
Well, I mean, there are a lot of folks who half jokingly and half seriously say Can we just forfeit this Clemson game and just make sure that no one gets hurt and, because we don't have any chance to win? I don't want to go quite that far. I don't want to. I mean, look, does Duke have a chance to win? We're like a 24-point underdog or something like that. I think I saw. Clemson is really, really good. Clemson's the best team in the country, not named Alabama.
We are a 28-point underdog.
28. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
I would love for us to keep it respectable. I think that would be an important step for the program. I would really love for this to be like maybe a 10-point game at halftime, maybe even less than that. I think that would be an amazing thing for our program. It is a primetime game. There'll be a lot of folks watching. And I think it can, I think if Duke shows well in this game, it can help our bowl bid situation. And I'll tell you something else that's going to happen in this game. There are going to be NFL scouts in attendance, a lot of NFL scouts. Now, a lot of them are going to be watching the Clemson players, but there are going to be a pretty fair number of them who want to see how some of the guys on Duke are able to do against NFL quality players on the other side, because that's what Clemson is. Clemson's full of NFL quality players. Clemson's full of guys who are going to be drafted in, the first 3-4 rounds of the draft and expected to be starters in the NFL. And, if you're talking about, we've all heard the talk this week that Daniel Jones, Mel Kiper Jr., the most respected NFL draft analyst out there, says that Daniel Jones is a first-round draft pick and probably one of the top 20 picks in the first round. He rates Daniel Jones as the second best quarterback in the entire NFL draft. There are NFL scouts who will be watching the game this weekend who are very eager to see how Daniel Jones does against the impressive Clemson defense. They're also going to be interested in seeing guys like Joe Giles Harris, who's another guy who I think has a real chance to be a decent NFL draft pick. And there could be a couple other guys on Duke who, playing well this weekend, will be a big deal for their future. And again, if Duke shows well in this game, I think it can really help us in terms of being a team that is relevant nationally and a team that is attractive from a bowl standpoint. Now, fast forward really, really, really quick, and then Donald, I'll let you give your thoughts on the Clemson game. The Wake Forest game could be a huge, huge game for Wake, because it could be the game that they need to get themselves bowl eligible. They are currently 5-5, and it's entirely possible that Wake will need to win that game against us to become bowl eligible. We are a better team than Wake Forest. Wake isn't bad. Wake has some very good wide receivers, and Duke is challenged in the secondary, because I think we're down to our seventh string cornerback because we've had so many injuries and stuff. So it's going to be perhaps a tougher game than just the relative quality of the two teams would indicate. And Wake will be very motivated, but I really, really, I want to see us get to that 8th regular season win, because like you said, I think we can really step up in bowl caliber and importance if we are a team that has 8 wins, especially if we also are a team that looked fairly good against Clemson.
Yeah, and you know what, to circle back to Clemson, I think my thoughts are, I want us to impress. Now, a lot of people would think impress would be with a win. It doesn't necessarily mean a win. Of course, I want us to win. Of course, we have a chance to win. If we play, our best ball game of the season, we can beat Clemson, because Clemson is not an NFL team like Alabama seems to be right now. But I think when it comes to, impressions, it's Saturday night, it's under the lights. A lot of people will be watching this game, like you said, because, one, there's going to be a lot of scouts there. 2, we're talking about Clemson, and people are saying, okay, if Clemson's going to be in this playoff, how are they going to stack up against Alabama? How are they going to stack up against number 3 Notre Dame or number 4 Michigan, who are in the playoff as of today? And what that's going to be means it's an opportunity for our guys to say, hey, look, we got some guys too. We have some talent on this side of the football too. And when it comes to Daniel Jones, a lot of NFL scouts are going to be looking at him to see, hey, who is this guy that people keep saying is one of the top 2-3 quarterbacks in the class? He has to come out and have a tremendous game. That's only going to help our confidence. That's going to help our momentum. And honestly, if you get Clemson on its back foot, who knows what could happen, And so with that, that's what I'm really looking for. There's a lot of things that have to go right for us to beat Clemson. And I'm not going to sugarcoat it. It's a 28-point underdog. They're 28-point underdogs for a reason. Clemson is very, very good. And it's going to take a hell of a game to beat them. But that's not to say that it can't happen. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how they show out. And really, if our guys can impress, at the end, they may be there. And they may have an opportunity to pull off one of the biggest upsets of the last couple of years in college football. So with that, with Wake Forest, like you said, they're going to have an opportunity to become bowl eligible, and possibly it could be by trying to beat us in that game. It's their senior day.
The game they have in between is Pitt. They play Pitt this weekend, and we know Pitt's playing really well right now.
Yeah, and Pitt can score the ball. But you know what? Wake Forest, they just beat NC State just last week. So, they're kind of probably using that as confidence, right? But I think in the end, for us, we just have to sit back and play our game. We're better than Wake Forest, in my opinion. We just have to go out and show that we are. And really, that might be a game that, Joe Giles Harris might come back. If he's fit and ready to go, that would be a very big boost to our defense, because I think with him and his motor and his organization, he's the one that keeps everybody focused and really, tied in and locked in on the same thing. We missed that against UNC. Even though we pulled off the win, we missed that sort of guy in the middle that can clog up the middle and also organize how the defense is structured on the outside. So against Wake Forest is going to be very important. And if Joe Giles Harris, for some reason, is not in that game and can't feature in that game, the guys next up really have to really focus on that. So I think with Wake Forest, they're going to throw everything they have at us, and we just have to withstand that pressure. I think we can. And if we do, we're looking at least 8 wins. And that's a tremendous season. And who knows what bowl game we can end up with after that point.
All right, so really quick, I just want to explain to folks why we are a 28-point underdog to Clemson. Clemson's last 5 games. You ready for these scores? They played Wake Forest.
Go ahead.
They played Wake Forest. Clemson won 63-3. After that, they played NC State. They won 41-7. Then it was Florida State. Remember when Florida State used to be good? They ain't anymore. Clemson won 59-10. The week after that was Louisville. Worst beatdown in Louisville history, 77-16. And then last week they played Boston College, a ranked Boston College team. They only won 27-7. But if you're wondering why Duke is a 28-point underdog, listen to those scores: 63-3, 77-16, 59-10. And the big takeaway from all those games, again, how many points their opponent scored? 3, 7, 10, 16, and 7. It is tough to get points on Clemson. If Duke is able to put up 14, 20 points, that would be a real success. And, that would be a sign that Daniel Jones is the stud we all think he is.
All right, now we wrap up as usual with our player of the week. And Jason, I have a feeling I know who your player of the week is, but go ahead and give it to me anyway.
I mean, I feel like it's a broken record. Every week it's the same guy, and it's the same guy because he's friggin' ridiculous. He's off the charts good. Zion Williamson, 10 for 12. 9 rebounds. He only got 9 rebounds. What kind of lousy game was that? 2 block shots, and as you alluded to earlier, he killed us. He sucked our souls. He destroyed the world at least 3 times with those slam dunks. Zion Williamson was my player of the week.
So I'm going to go with somebody different this week. You're
the man. Go for it, baby.
So with RJ Barrett, he had 20 points, and I really enjoyed. We haven't talked about him all show, so I want to make note of that. But in the end, I'm going to go with Zion Williamson. He's a different player than Zion Williamson, because, like I said, you know what? I can't even say it. The dude is just a freak. He's amazing. He's an animal, and I'm pretty sure I only have 3 of these Zion lives left after watching that game. So, sorry, RJ. Sorry, Cam. Sorry, Trey. Sorry, everybody else. It's Zion.
By the way, you know who quietly had a really great game was Jack White.
Yeah.
Once again, Jack White, 6 rebounds, 4 block shots, 10 points. It's a nice little game from Jack White. But
mark my words, Jack White will do something that will win a game in Maui.
I do not dispute that one little bit.
All right, and now we are on to parting shots. Jason, I know what your parting shot is, and it's a good one. So let's hear it.
Oh my God, I'm so mad. Oh,
I'm sorry. Before we go, spoiler alert, this is a Jason rant coming. Jason Evans rant on his favorite team to rant about. Jason, do your work.
Yes. So the NCAA released their graduation progress report for all the teams in college, in all of college sports, and they break it down by how you did as a school in all sports, how you do in football, how you do in basketball, and all the other kind of stuff. 98% of Duke student athletes across all sports either graduate within 6 years or they leave school, turn pro, whatever else it may be, in good academic standings, which means they were on course to graduate. Essentially, if you're only there for a year, or if you're there for 2 or 3 years and then you leave early, but you were clearly going to graduate, if you continued, then they count that, which they should. That's the only logical way to do this. 98% of Duke student athletes either graduate or leave in good academic standing. That is unbelievable, incredibly impressive. It ties us with Northwestern and Notre Dame as the top graduation student record team in the school in the country. Puts us just ahead of Stanford and Vanderbilt, who are each at 97%. Think about that those 5 schools: Duke, Northwestern, Notre Dame, Stanford, Vanderbilt, schools that compete at the highest level, and yet they graduate 98% of their student athletes. Unbelievably impressive. Do you want to know who's the second worst team in the ACC at that? The second lowest team in the ACC? The lowest is Florida State at 82%. North Carolina, UNC. Remember the Carolina way? They care so much about academics. The Carolina way, that's what that means, that they're good at sports and also good at academics. Carolina's second to last in the ACC. But wait, that's all sports.
You know what that is? You know what that is, Jason? It's more like Carolina way down in the bottom of the standings.
There you go, baby. But I apologize. That was for all sports. That includes like the fencers and the swimmers and those other non-revenue sports. Let's just talk about the revenue sports, because we know that's what Carolina really cares about, and that's where Carolina doesn't give a damn about educating their athletes one little bit. Let's look at football, for example. You know that Duke in football has a 96% graduation rate for their students, second only to Northwestern at 99. Duke's 96%, second best of every single football school in the country. North Carolina, they're dead last in the ACC, 62%. 2 out of every 5 North Carolina football players don't graduate. That's shameful. That's embarrassing. Basketball. Now, it must be better in basketball. You don't have an 80 or 90 person basketball team. It's just 13 guys that you have to worry about. It's just 13 guys you have to make sure go to class. Duke's at 100%. We're the top school in the country in basketball. 100% of Duke basketball student athletes, men's basketball, of course, graduate or leave school in good academic standing. 100% of them. North Carolina, 64%, second to last in the ACC. 15 teams, in the ACC. North Carolina, second to last. Only NC State at 56% is worse than North Carolina. Again, 2 out of every 5 North Carolina basketball players either don't graduate or leave school in bad academic standing. And let's remember, people, they spent 2 decades cheating. They spent 2 decades putting athletes into classes and giving them grades, even if the athletes didn't do any work. The Carolina way is to not educate your players. I wish it would be my fervent prayer that every single time a coach made contact with a recruit for a revenue sport, they had to begin the conversation. The first thing they had to say every time they called, every time they texted, every time they had an unofficial or official visit, every single time Roy Williams and Larry the Hat Fedora walks into a home and says hello to the parents and the player that they're recruiting, I wish the NCAA would require them. They would require Roy to say, by the way, only 64% of my athletes graduate. That should be a requirement. Every kid should know it. They should be aware that if they go to UNC, they are not going to get an education, that school doesn't give a damn about educating their athletes. They didn't care about it when they were cheating for 20 years, and now that the cheating's done, they still don't care.
You miss an important set of people that they should be informing, and that's the parents. Because if you think about it, with all these recruits, they talk about the basketball a lot. It's the parents that ask about the education, because they're the ones that are, to be frank, they're the ones that are like, hey, we don't care about the basketball. They can get a basketball education anywhere. How's your actual education doing? And if they were telling that to a lot of parents, I'm pretty sure a lot of parents would make them see the door very quickly.
Amen. Amen, brother. It is so shameful. And I mean, I keep on going back to, as you know, folks who are listening to the podcast may not know this about me, but I know Donald does. I have so much family that went to Carolina and were Carolina fans. I grew up a Carolina fan until I went to Duke. The Carolina way actually really meant something. Like, people talked about it. It was the fact that Carolina supposedly pretended to educate their athletes. We all believed in it. It was their reputation. They were one of the public ivy. Not anymore. And it turns out it hasn't been that way for a long, long, long time. And what I find really shameful is that after being involved in the worst, the most egregious, the most terrible academic scandal in college sports history, in the wake of that scandal, North Carolina still can't bother to graduate more than 3 out of every 5 basketball and football players that come there. Just sad. Really sad.
That was your patent pending Carolina rant by Jason Evans, and it was a good one this week. Thanks, Jason. My parting shot, I actually want to talk about an article that was on the front page of the DBR earlier this week, and it was about why Duke doesn't play a lot of true road games. And I want to push back on the article just a bit, because it mentions a lot about we don't go on a lot of these road trips because of how opposing team fans have treated Duke players and Duke families and Duke fans in the past. And while, yeah, there have been a lot of incidents where opposing teams have, cursed out, players or talked about their families, thrown bottles at players' families, hello Maryland, and other things that are just absolutely disgusting. That's not, in my opinion, why we don't go on road games. Because honestly, when guys come to Cameron, we're giving them their best work too. We're not throwing bottles. We're not saying vile things about, family members and things like that, but we're ribbing them. We're giving them a hard time, and we're making Cameron an absolute fortress. We want it so that nobody comes onto our floor and walks off with a victory. And I think that's what every team is trying to do. A lot of them just do it in different ways that may or may not be appropriate for college basketball. But I will say this. When you look at what we've discussed on this podcast, just this episode, about how we've played Kentucky, how we're going to play possibly Auburn and Gonzaga in the next week. After that, Indiana looms. After that, Texas Tech. And then we get into ACC season, which the ACC has, 8 teams in the top 25 right now? That, and a lot of those games, yes, some of them are true road games in the ACC, but honestly, the games are more important. Who we're playing is important. And it doesn't matter whether we play Kentucky at Rupp Arena, at Cameron Indoor Stadium, at Bankers Life Fieldhouse, or on the Moon. That game is a big game. it doesn't matter where we play Gonzaga, whether it's a hot, sweaty gym in Maui or if it's somewhere on the West Coast or if it's somewhere on the East Coast. It means it's a big game. And I think what we're looking at is an era where true road games really don't matter as much as the teams that you're playing. And I do think going on road games is great. And to be frank, there are a couple of times where I say, hey, it'd be cool to go and watch Duke play at Indiana or at Kentucky or at one of these big programs. But in the end, the big games are what matter when you're looking at the resume of college basketball. No one, when we talk about March Madness and we talk about the mid-majors, they don't talk about who they went to. They talk about who they've beaten. And in the end of the day, having some of these big games in our schedule is really going to do wonders for us. And it's not like this, is leading for us like going a true road. It's not like not going on road games is affecting our schedule. Our strength of schedule is normally one of the top 10 in the country every single season. And we don't get to play ourselves, which would really bump our rating up a little bit. So I think in the end, it's not about what we experience when we go on these road games. It's the fact that these road games pale in comparison to some of the teams that we can play on neutral sites. And honestly, when we're talking about it, we get down to the real root of this. The ACC championship is not played on anyone's home floor. The NCAA tournament is not played on anyone's home floor. So to get these true tests and true neutral sites from small gyms in Maui to big NBA arenas in Indianapolis, these games are all going to count. And I think Coach K knows what he's doing when he's talking about scheduling some of these games in big arenas, because at the end of the day, if we want to be playing on the first Monday in April, it's not going to be in anyone's home court.
That's a great point. You're so right about that. Although the Maui we're playing on a court that seats 2,400 people.
Yeah, it's. I'm pretty sure most people out there, their high school gymnasium is bigger than that of Chaminade. And Chaminade is an actual university that will be hosting 3 of the top 10 teams in the country next week. It's an interesting, and that's kind of what makes that tournament so special to watch every single year. And that is going to do it for episode 135 of the Duke Basketball Report podcast. Remember, we are on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, Google Play, and SoundCloud. So if you like us, please subscribe to us. Leave some nice, cushy reviews. That helps us with our ratings. That helps us with our searchability. And it really just makes us feel good to hear from you guys. If you guys have feedback or comments about some of the show, please email us at dbrpodcast@gmail.com, and we do respond to them. Some people say, that it's just an empty email that they could just dump a lot of stuff. We have gotten some great feedback over the years that we've had that email address, and it really is something that we value and take pride that we are responding to what you guys out there want. So if you are so inclined, dbrpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks as always to our sponsors, Bird Campbell, and thanks to Jason for joining me tonight. Sam, we will check him out next time. But for now, Duke Band, take us home.
Your challenge, if you choose to accept it, is this.
Let's go! Let's go!
Show up on day 1, work out with us for 30 minutes, feel good right away.
Yo!
Repeat 5 days a week for 3 weeks.
3 weeks?
5 workouts a week.
We're Body, and we call that a body block.
You pick the block, and you're going to love the experience.
On week 4, this part is really important. Take the week off. Seriously, we mean it. Rest. Go on vacation. Or try something new. Maybe some yoga.
Notice you're not holding on to any tension here.
Or a dance class.
Get sexy with it, daddy.
You do you. And then start again.
Be committed to this process.
Choose a new body block each month. Get a new challenge each month. Have fun every day. Avoid burnout.
You're not going to quit on yourself today.
This is how you reach your goals. You in?
There is nothing that we can't do if we work together.
Sign up for your first Body Block today. Visit body.com for a free trial. That's BODI.com.
Are you ready to get started?
It's time to expect more from urgent care, like caregivers who take time to listen, smooth access to local specialty care if you need it, virtual visits and save your spot convenience, plus easy access community locations. And we're open 365 days a year to treat your sprains, cuts, fever, and flu. Northwell Health Go Health Urgent Care. Get more than you expect and exactly what you need. Welcome to a new era in urgent care.